Hello, my name is Paul Withers from Intech Systems, and this is an overview of our new tool, currently in beta, called RADAAR. RADAAR, as you can see, stands for Review and Analysis of Domino Application Architecture Robustness. So what does that mean? Well, it's really drilling down into the architecture of your Domino databases and giving some unbiased analysis that can then be used to recommend improvements around performance, scalability, sizing, and data integrity. It's aimed at a number of use cases. If you're a long-term Domino customer with a database that hasn't had much love over a number of years, then it can give you some information on where you can tune that application for better performance as the architecture has evolved over a number of years. It can give you the data profiling to see what forms are being used and where, and it can give you some information about the agent scheduling. That kind of information is also particularly useful if you've just taken over support of an application. And this can give you a lot of background information about the architecture of the application in terms of forms and documents and views and agents in order to then drill down into what are the most commonly used areas of the application. If you're looking to upgrade your server, then RADAAR will give you some information around the Domino versions of the existing databases, properties that are set, some more recent settings that could be leveraged, and some architectural changes that could be made at application level to optimize the performance. And of course, if you're looking at moving where the server is stored, then it gives you information about the data volumes, so you can properly size where you're going to. That kind of information is particularly relevant also if you're migrating to the cloud. You can see how much data is there currently, but how's it going to grow over a period of time? RADAAR can give you an idea around that. It can also inform on agent profiling in order to see how you might want to change the scheduling if you're consolidating an infrastructure. And if you're looking at migrating or modernizing, then it's important to have an overview of the documents and the forms and the fields that are on them, and what kind of data integrity there is around those documents and what needs to be cleaned up before you then migrate or modernize. Particularly if you're looking at modernization, then you want to know what forms and views are being used, what the sizes are, what impacts there may have around modernizing those to web or mobile. And if you're looking to modernize that application, then it's useful to know what potential there is for archiving data out and archiving redundant functionality out of it. So when we're talking about modernization, there's another tool that's out there, Panagenda's Application Insights, which is also relevant to modernization. So how does RADAAR sit in relation to Application Insights? Well, it's not intended to compete or duplicate the functionality of Application Insights. Application Insights is aimed at client and user profiling and identifying coding that won't work for web or mobile approaches. RADAAR, on the other hand, is covering the architecture of the application and in terms of tuning it for performance purposes. So let's have a bit of a dig into RADAAR. The starting point is the build analysis page. So this is where you select the database to analyze or review. At the moment, the analysis is database by database. Longer term, we'll look at expanding that out into running over multiple databases at a time or a whole estate. We can see here when the various analyses were last done, and so we can see what might need updating. Views, because it's analyzing the number of documents and entries per view, and forms, because it's then going through the documents and analyzing those against the forms. Those do take a particularly long time with a large database, but it's running in parallel over multiple views and forms, so that performance should be mitigated as much as possible. Database properties gives an overview of all the database properties that have been set for that database in a single page. So it's a very useful overview page. View analysis and the other analyses, we then get this dashboard area at the top, where these are some key indicators that we've picked out, like private views, time-sensitive views. Clicking on any of those filters down to just the design elements that match those criteria. For all of the design elements, we've got a lot of information that's being displayed. That can be filtered in the filter details area. Agent analysis covers the same kind of thing, as does the form analysis. The agent schedule summary then looks at all scheduled agents in the application and looks at where they were scheduled for, when they're scheduled to run, and the last run date and run information if they have run. The document analysis shows documents based upon their created date or their modified date. It's the same for both. So we see the forms that have documents associated to them. We can see how many documents were created per year, and over the last 12 months, how many per month. So we get an idea of the throughput and which areas are still in use. That can also be displayed as a chart. At server level, we've got a shared private view, so you can analyze all the shared private on first use views that are stored in the database. These will have an impact upon your server. And analyze scheduled agents. It's the same kind of analysis that we do at database level, but here it's running at server level. So you can see what agents are scheduled to run at a particular time, on a particular day, and whether they're set to run at weekends, for example. So there's a lot of information there that's particularly useful, whether you're picking up an application that hasn't been worked on for a long time and could do with some optimization, or looking to modernize it to web UI and looking to work out what's actually used, what isn't being used, what can be streamlined, what can be optimized. So hopefully it's of use to a lot of people and anyone dealing with a Domino application.